This is a Showbile podcast.
Welcome back to episode 45 of Bucks on Nucks. Me and Stu are sitting here, a couple weeks off for the boys. Every time we miss a few weeks, Stu, it just feels like to me, I sit back and I'm like, why did I not start a podcast in high school when I didn't actually have like a full-time job and like actual obligations? Like I like high school would have been so easy, college would have been so easy, but then it's like we're just two grown men trying to fucking make a dream work here. So we're episode 45. We're rolling on. We got a lot to talk about today. NHL, UFC, Ngannou versus Fury, and whatever the hell else we seem to stumble upon. But I would be pissed if I didn't check in with my boy first. What's going on, Stu? How are you, bud?
Oh, doing good, you know. Yeah, like you said, a couple weeks off. But we're back and ready to go. Maybe a lot more content. I'm hoping to just figuring out a few things to make it work here. And then I feel like if you, as a listener, check out our YouTube channel, starting with this episode, we might have full episodes up there for you. The website, we haven't really boosted on social, so maybe we do that, or I don't know, maybe we put the website on hold. I don't know for sure what we do with it yet, but if the YouTube goes well, we keep the website going. But yeah, me personally, doing good, man.
Yeah, and when it comes to that shit, realistically, what we are is just two dudes fucking winging it. Like, I have no clue what the fuck I'm doing in terms of like the website and writing blogs or content or whatever. Like, you and I are not content creators by choice. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this isn't what we went to school. We don't have a degree in content creation. So it's one of those things where it's, well, actually, you technically have a diploma degree in content creation, don't you?
It's close enough. I mean, like, I don't know if the content creation is a name of a degree out there, but broadcasting would be close and maybe the closest thing to it. So
Stu could call a game with the fucking best of them. You put him in the booth, he could be the play-by-play with the best of them. But yeah,
I was
like
more
you said,
better at the production side. You can hear the stutter in my voice and shit. You know, I'm almost tripping up. But play-by-play seems to flow more naturally, I feel like, you know.
Well, yeah, and you know, with the production side, you know what I mean? Like, you do have the face to stay behind the camera and not in front of it, so that does kind of make sense. You know what I mean? Yeah. Me too. I got a radio fucking face and a radio voice. That means you can't go on TV. That's fucking, like, it is what it is. But, like, we've had Kyle Bukauskas on here a lot, and there's a guy who's got a face for TV, but not only a face, but just the hair on the kid. And every Saturday when he gets on TV and shit, I always want to just put a snap out there and be like, yo, like, we interviewed that guy. Like, we're in the big leagues too. Like, this guy's on TV, on your TV, and he was on our podcast too. We were just shooting the shit with Kyle. I kind of wonder what Kyle Bukauskas would say about the Edmonton Oilers right now. I truly wonder what his take would be. Like, tire fire, panic mode, fire sale. Like, I don't know what his take would be, but regardless what his take would be, I'm more excited to hear what your take is on the Edmonton Oilers right now. Like, where are you at 15 games into the season? I'll run through a little bit of stats. Like, 15 games in, they're 5-9-1, right? They have 11 points, but they're on a 3-game win streak. So they were 2-9-1 at some point, won their last 3. They got 43 goals for, 55 goals against, absolutely no depth scoring on this team whatsoever. And on top of it, they can't get a save, dude. Like, Jack Campbell, before he got put on waivers and sent down, he's got a 450 goals against average with an 873 save percentage. Stuart Skinner, the next best thing at Edmonton in net, he's got 3.23 goals against average and 880 save percentage. Like, you can't score enough goals, like, when you don't get a save ever. Like, I don't get it. Where are you at with Edmonton?
It's good to see them building a little bit of momentum. I think they obviously the star power is there to kind of like turn it around a little bit. But obviously it was a tough start. It was a slow start. They got some ground to make up. And even if they go on a bit of a heater here and then they're back in contention and maybe, you know what I'm saying? Maybe they have end up having a great season. That doesn't mean everything's green in fucking Edmonton. You know what I mean? Like, that Jack Campbell situation is not one that just something that's going to go away anytime soon. You know what I mean? He's He's signed for about $5 million a year, right? Until 2027, I believe.
5x5, baby. He's got the David Clarkson fucking contract. That could be up there in the last 10 years. That Jack Campbell contract, as of right now, could be up there with the worst contract handed out on July 1st in the last 10 years.
Yeah. And I was surprised almost, but it just seems like that's the way the Oilers are, that they didn't look for goaltending options in the summer, because if you remember, there was a point where John Gibson was a name out there that he wanted out of Anaheim, and now it's looking like he's kind of settled down and he's okay being there, like knowing that they're doing better, obviously. But he was on the market for a little bit, and he never heard a peep from Edmonton. And I mean, Jack Campbell and Stuart Skinner both didn't really have the best years last year either, and they were willing to run it back. I guess it's just like they were kind of had their hands tied with the amount of money tied up in goaltending. So, and obviously the stars that they have to pay.
Well, and on top of it, like, dude, like the thing with Edmonton, and I wanted to point this out to you because I didn't realize this, is like one of the reasons they couldn't go after a Gibson is like, dude, like they have nobody. Like they have nobody outside of, once you got Draisaitl, Bouchard, Hyman, Evander Kane, McDavid, Nuge, right? You're not going to trade any of those guys for John Gibson. Like those are your guys. They all have, 11 and 15 for Nuge, 13 and 13 for McDavid, 15 and 15, 15 and 15, and 15 and 15 for Bouchard, Hyman, and Kane. Then you got Draisaitl. After that, dude, like the biggest drop off, like 6 and 15 for Fogle, 5 and 5 for Ekholm and Nurse in 15. 3 assists for Cody Ceci, who's playing 19:39 a night, 3 points in 15 games, 2 points for Ryan McLeod, who's playing 15 minutes a night, 2 assists, 0 goals in 15 games, 2 points for Kulak, a 1 point for Derek Ryan in 15 games, like 1 point for Holloway, 1 point. And anybody that they've called up to play 7-8 games doesn't even have a point, man. Like they have nobody outside of like 5 or 6. They have no one, and they don't get a, like McDavid and Draisaitl could put up 140 points each. They still don't have enough after them to do anything.
I know, dude. And it's been like that though, but they seem to kind of make it work when they get to the playoffs, like enough. I guess everybody kind of gets the legs under them, and they've won rounds, right? But
absolutely.
Yeah, they are a little bit thin, or I mean, they're very thin when you look towards the bottom 6. I mean, but it has, that's just been like their blueprint for like the last couple of years. Now I don't know if it's by design or they're just kind of, that's the hand the GM kind of gave them. And he doesn't really have any other options. But like there's some guys down there that I like when I watch a lot of Oilers games because I had Draisaitl and Evander Kane. Great night on Wednesday for me there, by the way. On my fantasy team. So I end up watching I've watched a few Oilers games so far this season. And there's dudes in the bottom 6 that I like. It's just like I feel like it's like one guy on the, like, you know what I mean? I like Warren Fogle. He's a fast player. He seems to get a lot of chances, but it just like it never ends up turning into production. Dylan Holloway obviously is like fairly young, and I know when he was still a prospect, it was a guy that they were hoping would come in here and maybe fill a pretty solid offensive role for them. And he kind of really hasn't panned out quite yet. Maybe there's still some hope, but like if you're going to make a trade for John Gibson in the summer, you'd probably have to be looking to your farm system guys, or your in your prospect guys, right?
Yeah, or like the one thing is like they're weak on defense, right? Like part of the reason as to why Edmonton's goaltending is so bad is because of how weak they are on D, right? Like usually like 1 + 1 = 2, right? Like if you're fucking horrible in net, usually you're not great defensively either. Like there's a big thing of that. So it's like you can't take away Ekholm or Nurse to go out and get a Gibson because you're going to be way worse. And like you're not going to get Gibson for Cody Ceci and like all these other guys, right? Like I say it, like Dylan Holloway has 1 goal, 1 point in 14 games. Like he's got 1 goal, right? Like that's what I'm saying. 15 games, Derek Ryan, your center, playing 10 minutes a night, like 1 assist. Ryan McLeod playing 15 minutes a night, like no goals. Like I don't know. Like they brought in Sam Gagner. He's played 7 games for them, right? Has 5 points, and it's like, okay, well, there's your bottom score. And it's like, I don't know. It's just, it's weird in Edmonton. Like I said, I think that Jack Campbell signing reeked of desperation, just like the Leafs getting Matt Murray last year. That Jack Campbell signing reeked of desperation because you know what? I get it. Like, he was an all-star, but dude, he was also statistically like the worst goalie in the league the second half of the season, like with the Leafs. Statistically, like one of the worst. Like,
I was never
still game 5-by-5. Like,
did you ever look to Jack Campbell and like, did you ever, when you just saw him playing goal, like forget the numbers, even when he was on a heater, you just saw him playing net. Did you ever like think like, do you ever look at him and be like, this guy's a starting goaltender?
Oh, fuck no. Absolutely not.
It was kind of like this. It was like the Jonathan Bernier when he was a Leaf, right? It was like the
James
same in that
Reimer,
regard, where it's like,
yes.
Technically, I guess you could say he's our starter, but he just doesn't like, he's doesn't look like our starter out there. You know what I mean? It's just too many mistakes and like, and I don't know. I guess it was a lucky half of the season for Jack Campbell there, I guess.
Well, it's not, and like my thing too is here, and I don't want this to get misconstrued as if like I'm really ripping on the guy. He's probably a great guy, probably has a lot of things, but like, you know, and you can attest to this, Stu, like goalies are a little different in general, right? But the thing with Jack Campbell is like it was so mental for him, right? That first half, like, yeah, like he was flying on, but like as soon as it went bad, everyone was like, oh, like Jack Campbell's mental state, Jack Campbell's mental. It's like, so for Edmonton to even send him down right now, like I don't see Jack Campbell coming back. Like obviously he is going to get another shot because of his contract, but like I don't see him ever producing at any type of all-star level ever. Yeah.
Have you seen his AHL stats?
Dude, did you see the first goal he let in? It was just garbage from like, it's like, dude, like that's what I mean. It's like,
but he's played like he started like 5 games down there and he's got like an 819 save percentage or something like stupid.
Dude, like
I don't know.
He's dodging it now. He's dodging the puck. It's crazy. Like,
the thing is with Jack Campbell, I feel like once he came to the Leafs and kind of got like some media attention around him, right? It happens naturally when you become a Leaf. Now everyone knows him. They know his personality, and he gets like these weird, like, I don't know. A lot of them are like moms, and a lot of them are just like soft dudes, and like, I mean, that's a rude thing to say, but he's
he's a pussy. He's an absolute pussy. Like,
well, I don't say that about like a guy I don't know, right? I'm just saying. And he's obviously a far better goaltender than I ever am or will be, right? So, but he has like a lot of guys that just keep defending him and saying like, you guys are hating on him. Like, this is, you know what I mean? Like, he's a great goaltender and stuff like that. He never screamed good goaltender to me. I'm sorry. Like, and the guys in the NHL at the end of the day, this is his dream. This is what he worked to be his entire childhood. So if you're in the NHL, you got to take the heat. You can't, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't need these guys out here defending for him. And now that he's down in the minors, I wish him the best, obviously. But now that he's down in the minors, there's nobody like holding his hand and making sure that he's in a good, like, you know what I mean? There's nobody like the Oilers. If they know it's mostly mental, right? And he's not performing, I feel like the same thing happened with the Leafs. They have like guys, maybe a sports psychologist. They get the teammates, they get the coaches going in, having some talks with them, trying to settle them down and be like, "Hey, man, like we have faith in you and shit like that." But this move just proves that they really don't really have faith in him, and they send him down. Then the Oilers are no longer worried about his performance at this moment in time, right? They're just trying to get wins and get back to at least 500 here in the next like 10 games or so, right? So. There's nobody looking out for Jack, maybe in the AHL, but I don't really, like you said, I don't really see a path back for him.
No, and that's the thing.
At least soon.
No. I completely agree with that. I don't see him ever getting back to like an all-star caliber. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think that was a fluke. I think he worked hard for it. I'm just saying a fluke. Like, dude, obviously the guy he was good. Like, you know what I'm saying? He was stopping pucks, but also with him, like there's a point of it where people, like you say, are constantly defending him. He's a good guy. I don't give a fuck. He's making $5 million a year, 5 by 25. Like, he's making $25 million in this contract. Like, You should be able to take some fucking heat if you're not stopping a puck. You're making $25 million over 5 years. And guess what? Now you're in the minors and you still got the guaranteed money of making $5 million or $25 million over the next 5 years. Like, regardless, like Jack Campbell wins at life. Like, he's going to make 25 million times more than a lot of fucking people will ever fucking make. So he's won at life. But if you don't stop the fucking puck and you have that type of contract, you gotta be criticized and you gotta be mentally tough. And I don't know. I just don't see, it's like the Matt Murray thing. I don't see fucking Jack Campbell being mentally tough enough to bring himself out of that hole. And I know it sounds fucked, but yeah, it's like, I just don't see it. The other thing, I had a question for my boy Troy. I texted him before the pod and I said, is he like this Edmonton situation, you got anything? And he's like, McDavid has 2 more years after this one, right? Like, yep. I don't see him I don't see them blowing it up regardless when McDavid is there. Like, I just don't see them doing it, right? Because it's like, whatever. But I don't see them sticking around for a blow up either. But like, what do you do if McDavid or Draisaitl is like, I want to go win. I want to, like, what do you do? Like, I could see it. McDavid's talked about all he wants to do is win. It's like, you guys are going to rebuild.
Above my pay grade, man.
Well, no, it is above your pay grade, but that's not
something for me to figure out, and I don't want to get stressed out worrying about it, especially when they're not even a team that I genuinely care about too deeply. You know what I mean? So I hope he ends up in Toronto.
Yeah. I mean, yes, I couldn't agree more. Speaking of guy to end up in Toronto, I'm going to throw this in here off the top. We've seen a lot of rumors about Patty Kane returning to the NHL, and there has been a few rumors of him coming back and playing on the Leafs. There's also been like him going back to the Rangers, like just a few other teams out there that are in the mix for the Patrick Kane sweepstakes. You got any idea? Like, where would you like to see Patty Kane go outside of the Leafs? Obviously, we'd love him on the fucking Leafs. That's no brainer. But where do you think Patty Kane, if he slides back in somewhere right now, whether it's like a Vancouver, a Dallas, even Colorado, the Rangers, like Boston, like he could go back to any of these teams that are top tier contenders that, would probably love to get a Patty Kane on it for a 1 year, $1 million kind of deal. You got any hunches on Patty Kane? You got any predictions on where he's going to land?
I would he doesn't really, I know, I feel like I'm wrong for saying this, but he doesn't really excite me in Toronto. He doesn't change the fabric really at all. You know what I mean? So it would be cool, obviously, as a Leafs fan, to have Patty Kane. You have two of the best American players, one of the best of all time, and then Matthews, the guy right now, right? Maybe even line mates. Who knows? But
for sure they would be to start off. For sure he would be right in there.
They would test it. They would test it. I don't think it would last. But well, I don't know. Yeah, it would be cool. But it would I'm not. Even after seeing that report that he met with the Leafs, I wasn't out there. I wasn't on Twitter and on Google and stuff trying to stay up to date with all the stuff. I'm just like, if it happens, it happens. Patty Kane, he's obviously taken a step back. He hasn't played in a while, coming off surgery, right? So I don't know. It would be cool to see him in Buffalo. I know that's kind of his hometown. Florida, I hear a lot. That would also be pretty cool. You get something rolling in Sunrise again. I mean, they fresh off a Stanley Cup appearance. I don't think I haven't really been keeping tabs on Florida, but I don't know if they're doing too hot to start the season.
Florida's.
Florida's, they are. They picked it up. Okay.
Yeah, 10-4-1. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and they had. Sorry, that's my mistake, because at the start of the season they were a little bit banged up. I think Montour still. Yeah, they'd have a dangerous team, and obviously they lost. Huberdeau is kind of like the distributor there, getting what he had 85 assists the 1 year. To have a Patty Kane, a skill guy, to match up with other skill guys like Kachuk. Obviously Barkov's a stud up the middle for them. For Hagee, it would be a treat to see him in Florida. I think Florida would be my favorite place for him. Buffalo would be cool just because it's his hometown, but Buffalo, I mean, I think it kind of ruins kind of what they're doing a little bit there.
Well, no, and I think for Patty Kane, he's coming back for a 1 year, $1 million to win a cup. I don't think he's going to Buffalo and signing a 3-year deal and fucking sticking around, right? I like your Florida take. I really do. I kind of even thinking maybe even a Washington, right? You had fucking Patty Kane on that Washington power play with Ovi at the end of their career. I could see that kind of changing like, because Washington even 8-4-2 right now with 18 points. Like, they're in. I get they're in second in the Metro, and I get it's early and whatever else. But a team that I really actually think that he could come in and make a real impact on is the Winnipeg Jets. I know I sucked their dick all last year, but dude, you add Patty Kane on that power play with Scheifele and Connor and Morrissey, like, and Ehlers. Like, I went and watched the Detroit Winnipeg live, and I really, really liked that Winnipeg team still, like live. Like, Hellebuck looked great. Like, Kyle Connor looked real good. Like, just needs a guy to get him the puck. Scheifele looked good, and Ehlers looked great. Like, Ehlers is a guy that, like, when you see him in person, they're like, holy shit, is that guy ever? Like, he's rips around that ice. Like, he's fast. He's got great hands. He kind of throws his body a little bit, like, got a great shot, whatever. I think you add Patty Kane to that mix that could really, like, change that team's dynamic where they need that extra score. But I really do think you're kind of bang on, and you kind of took my my pick of, like, I do think Florida is a great pick for him. Like, I think Florida is very well set up, and I think they're more poised to win a cup this year than Winnipeg is, and I think that's a big thing for Patty Kane. I think he's coming back to win a cup, and that's the only reason why he's coming back, because he's already done everything he possibly could, and if he wanted to stay in Chicago, he could have. But moving on from Patty Kane, I'm going to go to the Vancouver Canucks. These guys, last few years, they've been basically like a laughingstock. Like, they've been horrible, right? And all of a sudden, you wouldn't say that?
I said you could say that.
Oh, yeah, they've been fucking terrible these last few years. Yet, all of a sudden this year, they get a little bit healthy. Pettersson's not banged up. Demko's not banged up. And they're sitting at 12-3-1 right now, 6-0-1 at home. They are tops of the Pacific, and actually they are tops in the Western Conference, if you still want to do that. Pettersson's going off. JT Miller's going off. Quinn Hughes is going off. Brock Besser's going off. Even this Philip Roenick, like, I get it. Philip Roenick's, like, been, like, in the league for a long time, but this guy was not, like, going off the way he is now. But the big X factor that they have right now is Thatcher Demko. This guy's 8-3 in 11 games. He's got 2 shutouts already. He's got a 204 goals against and a 932 save percentage. I don't see the Vancouver Canucks getting, barring, like, major injury here to Demko or Pettersson, or, like, I don't see them cooling off. Like, I think that this is them being healthy. They've taken their lumps. They've grown. They got a lot of good young talent that's now coming into, like, that, like, their own, where they're not just young and unproven anymore. And I don't see them slowing down. Like, what do you think of the Canucks, considering what we just talked about with the Oilers?
They are the funnest thing to watch in hockey right now, my friend. I think I've watched, or no, I can guarantee you, actually, because it's not even close. I've watched more Canucks hockey, more minutes of Canucks hockey this year than I have the Leafs so far. And I'm not embarrassed to say that, because
you should be.
No, my friend, the Canucks, I love, and honestly, like, 7:00 games are tough for me now. It's half the reason why, like, we've been slacking on this podcast a little bit, right? Like, it's just, like, time wise, it's just, I feel like I'm always doing something, but, like, 10:00, I'm usually home by that. 10:00, I can flip who's on, and then the Canucks are my go-to right now. You know what I mean? I watch a little bit of Edmonton, obviously, like I mentioned before, but the Canucks are my go-to just because they're so fun to watch. I have JT Miller and Brock Besser on my fantasy team. Brock Besser, fucking career year to start, or, like, at least looks like it's going to be, kind of rekindling that magic when I believe he was a rookie, right? When everyone, he was like, oh, a new sniper in town in Vancouver out west, Brock Besser. And then he kind of was disappointing for, like, quite a few years, like 3 or 4 years there. And it looks like he's returned. He's found that line with JT Miller, and I think it's Di Giuseppe as well, has been. But dude, JT Miller, I'll just say, I know we talked about it before. He's rank 1 in, like, all our fantasy leagues and stuff like that. But he actually might be the best. Like, not obviously hard to, like, obviously McDavid and stuff exists. So I'm not saying he's the best player, but he's been the most effective player in the league to start. Him or Quinn Hughes. Like, this whole Edmonton team, Vancouver team, has just been fucking nasty. I mean,
you're saying
last night,
Brock Besser, Pettersson, Quinn Hughes, and JT Miller have more points than Brock Besser. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, 3 guys on his team. Like, it's crazy.
Dude, last night, like, was like a beautiful example of everything. Like, even when Pettersson, like, isn't out there having multi-point, like 3-point games or whatever, that he seems to be doing a lot lately. JT Miller just snipes one on the power play. Next power play later in the second period makes a beauty feed to Brock Besser, tucks one home. You know what I mean? And then they end up rallying back in that game. It was just beautiful to watch. It was a sick game. And against the Islanders, nobody likes watching the Islanders, but I was like, wow, this was a sick game. Islanders go up and they come back with 2 goals I just mentioned. They tie the game. They end up going to overtime, and then there's Quinn Hughes off the bench or something. Fucking JT Miller just makes like a beautiful turnaround pass. I'm like, this team. JT Miller's an underrated player, I think. And he took a lot of like flack for being like he was just supposedly, the rumor was he was like a what you would call it, a fucking locker room cancer, you could say. And then a lot of people were criticizing the Canucks, saying like, oh, you got rid of Horvat and kept JT Miller. That's crazy. You got rid of your captain just to keep JT Miller. Paying dividends now. Thatcher Demko. I know you want to talk about Thatcher Demko. I would say didn't really have a great season last year, but he's been ever since he was
a lot of last year. Yeah.
Yeah, but ever since he was like drafted, there was a lot of potential for Thatcher Demko. And then he hasn't really, like, you've seen flashes of it where he's been like phenomenal, and you're like, this guy like is going to be like the best one day, right? This year though, I would make the argument that he's probably a top 5 goaltender in the league right now. Obviously,
or better.
Well, no, I just mean like when you put all the resumes of work together, there's guys that are like are far more qualified for that like top 5 position, right?
Now in the league, like right now.
Oh, right now in the league,
yeah.
He's been like pretty well the best goalie in the league, right? But I'm just saying, like, I actually think just watching him, he is maybe the top 5 skilled goaltender. Like you could say Shesterkin, Sorokin, Ottinger,
Vasilevsky.
You have to put Vasilevsky, and then who is it, right? I think it's Demko. Aiden Hill's been really good in Vegas, but he's kind of got a small resume, so he's not there for me yet. But yeah, he's among the elites in the league. So yeah, Vancouver is just an absolute wagon. I don't see them slowing down either. The only thing with Vancouver is they could have a fucking, like the last few years, right? They could have the best roster in the league on paper, and then somehow they just find a way to fuck it up. But this year I'm super confident, and we can't do all this talk about fucking Vancouver and not give credit to Rick Tocchet behind the bench there, because it was as soon as he came in is when everything clicked. And he went from the fucking TNT panel to now he's probably going to win the Jack Adams this year, if I had to imagine. So shout out Rick Tocchet.
And the best part about Rick Tocchet is Rick Tocchet will tell you it's Jimmy's and Joe's, not X's and O's. It's his boys going through a fucking wall for him at all costs, at all times. And you're right. The guys believe in Rick Tocquet's the way he coaches, like his game style, like his game planning. Awesome. They all believe in it. It's Rick Tocchet has been a coach for a long time, but you're right. Jumped on that TNT panel. And
I know. I don't mean like, like he wasn't fresh. He wasn't fresh, you know, like he was just it seemed like that's what he was going to do for a while, right? He was going to be a media personality for a while. It was going to take, and then it was like less than a season, I think, right? The TNT thing started last year, I believe, right? So it was like less than a season. And he's back in it behind the bench of Vancouver, taking over like a dumpster fire there, it seemed. And then all of a sudden, here we are. They're at the top of the Pacific Division, 16 games in. So,
and I only meant that because of exactly like I feel like sometimes when you see these guys where they go into like a media role and then they end up getting hired again, like they are fresh. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he gets a new perspective. It ended up going like just the best way possible for him. But the thing about Thatcher Demko, and you're right, you brought it up. I wanted to talk about him. Like, you want to talk about underrated players in the league, right? Just underrated players. Thatcher Demko could be the most underrated goalie in the league. Think about how fucking bad Vancouver's been, like how bad they've been. And like even in 2020, 2021, he had a 285 goals against average with a 915 save percentage. He went 16 and 18. Like 2021, 21, 22, like Vancouver's horrible. This guy had a 272 goals against average and a 915 save percentage. Like even last year, like they were horrible. They were awful. And he still had over a 900 save percentage in his career, 285 goals against average, 912 save percentage. And most of the time that Thatcher Demko has been in Vancouver, they have been fucking terrible. You know what his stats are this year, but with the way that they're kind of coming into their own, and a lot of their, like I said, a lot of their young guys now it's almost like the Leafs situation where like all of a sudden, you know, we were young with like Marner and Matthews and whatever, but now they were really starting to come in their prime and they were killing it. Like Thatcher Demko is going to win a Vezina this year. Like mark it down right now, bet on him. I know he's going to be the odds-on favorite. Thatcher Demko is winning the Vezina. No doubt in my mind. And if not the Vezina, this man's winning comeback player of the year. Like this guy, like anything, like this guy is winning an award this year because, dude, this is kind of, and like you said, you watch him and it's like skill wise, like he's up there with the UC Saros and Vasilevsky and Shesterkin, where you watch him and you're like, oh, this guy can start.
Solid,
like
solid man.
He can start 60 games a year, which is that is almost unheard of. Like there's only 6-7 guys, like the guys we named, the Ottingers, the Vasilevskys, the Shesterkins, Sorokins, Saros, and then maybe Demko that could start 60 games a year. It's all about the tandem now. It's all about guys starting 40.
They won't do that.
Well, dude, they've already done it with him. He started 60. He started but that's 64
I don't
games
think they
in
want to do that
2021.
again. Casey DeSmith has been pretty good as a backup. He's been very good, so they're going to play him a lot this season. They don't like. He's never going. The Demko will never play a back to back, unless it comes down to like the last game. Then
they don't do that anymore, right?
I know, but Casey DeSmith will get a spot starts here and there too, just because they don't want Demko hurt again, right? And you saw, like, this is the thing with goalies, dude. Like Ottinger played what? Like he might have played 60 games last year for Dallas, and then he kind of regressed in the playoffs. Same with like Hellebuck a little bit. Like you got to rest your goalies, so you need like a reliable backup. And Casey Smith has been very good so far.
Well, I know, but he still, even then, I agree with you completely. But Casey DeSmith started 4 games. Demko started 11. The only time DeSmith has started is on those back-to-backs, right? Like he's just, on pace right now. If you're talking 15 games and you're going through it, Demko is on pace to start 61 games.
Well, DeSmith will start tonight, and then I know in the very first game of the season, when they steamrolled Edmonton for the third period, or like for like 10 minutes or something. That's when I knew it was the very first game. For 10 minutes, they were up a shit ton, and I heard Demko may have had a little bit of a flu bug or something, and they were like, all right, we're way up. Let's save our guy here. And they threw in Casey DeSmith and like just on the fly, middle of the game.
Yeah, so, which I think that is kind of like the new kind of like NHL, like we said, right? Like you don't do it. Like pitchers don't fucking pitch complete games anymore, rarely at MLB, and goalies don't start 80 fucking games. Like there's no Kiprusoff out there starting 75 games for his team and playing every minute that he possibly can. But then again, you're right. Like I agree. Like it's 15 fucking games into the season. I said my overreaction is Thatcher Demko is going to win a Vezina, and I stand by it. Like I'm going to bet it right now of Thatcher Demko winning the Vezina. You got a 15 games in overreaction that you have right now, or is yours the Vancouver Canucks?
Mine is the Vancouver Canucks. I think I think they do damage in the playoffs, man. I know it's super early, and I'm kind of hopping on the bandwagon here, but I think they do damage in the playoffs. I want to say they win the Pacific, but obviously Vegas is there, and Vegas is obviously it would be pretty easy to call Vegas the best team in the league, and they have the same record to this point as the Canucks. So I'm not going to say they win the Pacific, but I think they do. They're obviously going to make the playoffs, and I think they're going to do damage. I think they go a couple rounds at least, and maybe their dark horse cup. But when it comes down to when it comes around, when spring rolls around, we start talking about that. You know, like naturally, like we did last year. Start talking about dark horses. It's going to be Vancouver. Most likely is going to be mentioned there, but who knows if they're even a dark horse at that moment? Like maybe they fucking run away with this shit here.
I was gonna say, yeah, they're not a dark horse at this moment, but the Vancouver Canucks, the one thing I love about them, and I always say this about why the Leafs, as much as it pains me to say this, is never going to win a cup right now, is because like every cup winner, like every cup winning team of the last, I would say 20 years has had either one or both of the following: a Norris caliber defenseman and a Vezina caliber goalie. Anybody who's won a cup, and you could run it back, go 20 years, they've had a Norris caliber defenseman and or a Vezina caliber goalie. You think about Vegas with Pietrangelo, like that guy was a fucking Norris caliber defenseman with Shea Theodore in there. I get it. They didn't have. I get it. I said they have one or both of the following. Right? You think about all those times where
Aiden Hill did play like a fucking elite goalie in the playoffs, and I think he is a really good goalie. So, but
you think about the Pittsburghs, the fucking Chicagos, like the Detroits, like they always had a Vezina caliber goalie, a Norris Trophy defenseman. You think about Colorado. Yeah, they didn't have the Vezina goalie, but they had fucking Cale Makar. Like he was playing as the Norris caliber defense. Leafs don't have either one of those. That's why they won't win a cup, in my opinion. And they just won't win in the big game, the big moment, the big spotlight. And speaking of big spotlights too, Stu, there were some big spotlights on the UFC this past weekend. I didn't watch. I know the main card of this. I looked at it. I've watched some highlights, but that's all I've watched. All 5 fights on the main card ended by KO or TKO within the first 2 rounds. I know there were some big hitters, Pereira versus Prohaska and Tom Aspinall versus Pavlovich. What did you see this weekend? What did Ty bet? Give us your take on UFC 295 from this past weekend.
So Ty went Diego Lopez, Benoit Saint-Denis, and he had Yuri Prohaska in the main event. So, the first 2 fights of the main card were pretty nuts. Ended pretty quickly. Like Lopez, I was a little bit scared for because it's the first pick of the parlay, right? And I was like, let's see what he does. And then they were gassing up. Who did he fight again? Fuck, I forget who he fight. But they were gassing the dude up too, and I was like, oh shit, like what's happening here? You know what I mean? And then, but he ended up fucking
Sabatini.
The American, right? So they're like, they were gassing him up on the call, and I was like, what the hell is going on here? I'll just have faith in Ty, you know? And then turns out Ty was bang on. Second fight of the main card was Saint-Denis. I think Saint-Denis has potential to make a title run in that division. So I was pretty confident in that one, even though surprisingly, like a lot of people I was talking to were on Frivola in that fight. I don't know if they just like the underdog odds. But yeah, Saint-Denis was the pick there, and I really never had a doubt. And he made quick work of Frivola too. And then the female fight was Dern and Andrade, and how many knockouts do you see? First round, or what was it? First or second round knockout? How many knockouts in the first round or whatever do you see? Second round? How many second round knockouts do you see in the women's strawweight fights? Right. So
women's fights in general, right? There's only a few that can throw the punches hard enough for them to put them out because their cardio is so good. They're in such good shape. None of them are going down ever. Like it's almost rare to see a women's knockout.
I know. So that was like pretty surprising. And then I was like, wow, I just set the tone for the card here, like for the main card, 3 fights in a row, just like absolute bangers. So then it was Pavlovich and Aspinall. Ty like left this one out of the parlay. And I'm glad he did because I don't know who he was on, but I made like a little side bet, Pavlovich, because he has 6 straight, like 6 straight KOs, right? And I was like, all right, I'll just make like a little side bet here, like Pavlovich by KO. You know what I mean? And dude, fucking Aspinall came in. They were gassed. That one was even odds. I think that was dead even odds when I looked at it right before as they were walking out. -110. I'm pretty sure. And you could see why as soon as they started fucking moving in there. Aspinall looked a little bit more active, obviously a little bit of a more athletic and quicker guy. And he was like trying to piece him up a little bit. And then Pavlovich took a couple swings, buddy. And it was like, all right, we'll see why this guy's dangerous. And then literally like 15 seconds later, Aspinall just clocks him. And I was like, wow, that was fucking nuts. These boys hit hard. So I'll get to the main event in a sec, but about Aspinall now, I don't know what's next for him. I know John Jones is going to be out for a while, but I think it's hard to say. And I feel like I have a safe space to say it here anyways, because obviously DK, you're famous for being a little bit of a John Jones hater. So I feel confident in saying that if Aspinall fights John Jones, I think that's a guy that could actually give him a run for his money. Aspinall is better than Cyril Gane, and better than pretty much everyone. Pretty much everyone in that heavyweight division. He moves like a fucking welterweight, and he's good everywhere. So I don't know what you think about that. I just called you a John Jones hater.
Well, yeah, fuck John Jones. Like, yeah. Like, it's not. I don't hide from the fact of being like a John Jones hater. Like, fuck that guy. Like, I don't know. He fights every couple of years, and it's not entertaining to me anymore. And the guy's fucking, I don't know. He's rich as like he should just. I'm just not a John Jones guy, and like I get it. I still will fucking say that he's one of the best of all time. Asterisks, but still. Fuck John Jones. Yeah, Tom Aspinall. Like, it's just one of those things where, like, you know, John Jones has become like the Yankees, where like, or the Patriots when they were like winning all the Super Bowl. Where it's like, I get it. Like, and I completely agree with you. Trust me, like I do. But it's like nobody beats this guy. Like, it's weird, right? Like, I don't know. And he's so boring nowadays, especially in a heavyweight and shit. He just doesn't have the power and shit to like to that Aspinall does, or like. I don't know, like even just like that, the main fight on that card was supposed to be Miocic Jones.
Yeah, well, and this is the thing, right? Like Jones was going to steamroll fucking Stipe, right? And they said when that fight got called off, we're going to save it. So Stipe hasn't fought in how long, and he's fucking like 40. So what's that going to be when Jones returns, right? So. That's why I like the Aspinall fight better. Aspinall probably fights one more time before like Jones even thinks about coming back, and it is probably going to be
Aspinall's the interim champ though. So if I'm Aspinall, I'm saying fuck it. I'm waiting until Jones. Like I'm the interim champ. This interim
champ doesn't mean really anything to me.
But it does mean a golden ticket to get like if you're the interim champ, then that means a golden ticket to fight the champ. Right, like that's what it is.
Should.
Like
it should, but it doesn't always, and very often, and it doesn't happen that way as often as it should.
You're right. No, you're completely right. And the problem with the heavyweight division there too, Stu, is like I remember when we were going to like the heavyweight division was fucking like cream of the crop. You know what I'm saying? Like you wanted to watch every heavyweight fight, and now it's just not that. Like Tom Aspinall is the interim, Dawn is the 2, Pavlovich is the 3, Miocic 4, Blades 5, Volkov 6. Like there's just not like much draw in that. Like, if I'm Aspinall, like I'm sitting my ass down and waiting for John Jones because there's nobody else out there. Like, what am I gonna do? Go fight fucking 50-year-old Stipe? Like,
yeah, the guys
doesn't do anything. Yeah,
the competitors in that division aren't the personalities. Is the thing. Like, you got John Jones obviously moving up, but like if you take away John Jones, it's like Don isn't really like a media guy, and Stipe is fucking old and shouldn't even have a shot at the belt, I don't think.
Same with Blades and Volkov and Tuivasa and Lewis. Like
Tuivasa something, but he's not good enough. You know what I mean? And
that's what I mean. Like,
Derek Lewis obviously is like a fucking media not a media darling.
They're fun to watch, but they're not.
And he's funny as fuck,
champions.
But he's not. Yeah, he'll never be good enough, right? And then But Tom Aspinall, I like Tom Aspinall. You know, he's a little bit like little swaggy. He's the English guy. You know what I'm saying? His dad in the corner. It's a pretty cool story. So now I'm hopping on the wave of Tom Aspinall. But like other than that, like there's nothing really there. Like Sergey Pavlovich obviously could have been especially if he won that fight. But even coming off 6 straight KOs, if he was like an American dude with a big loud mouth, he would be a superstar, you know what I mean, already, and people would already be like lining him up for John Jones, but the guy just goes in there, goes about his business, and then leaves. He doesn't even really say anything. He doesn't even look mean coming out of he looks mean just because he looks like a Russian fucking gulag warden, but then but he doesn't have any expression. Like he just walks out, just goes in, handles business, finishes a dude in 30 seconds, then peels.
He finished this time. He got 30 seconds. That is exactly what it is. Couple pumps and he's fucking out of there. And that's the whole heavyweight division.
I mean, this time it was truly him finished.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? It's a fucking what goes around comes around, and he got fucking finished off. I just was gonna say that too about the few fights in the men's division there. Like the Lopez fight, total strikes for each guy. Like one had 18, one had 16. Then the steamroller Fravola, like he had 12. and fucking Saint Denis had 15, and Aspinall, it was like he had 14, Pavlovich had 7. Like there was almost barely any fucking total strikes thrown in these 3 fights, and they were all KOs in the first round. One that went a little bit longer, and you got to maybe see like just that level of skill that Alex Pereira has against Yuri Prochazka. Like, what did you think about that fight? Pereira ends up winning late in the second round by KO. What did you think about that fight in the main event of UFC 295?
That fight ended with a little bit of controversy. I thought it was an early stoppage. Obviously, I know Prochazka said in the post-fight interview, like it wasn't an early stoppage, but I still think it was a bit early. He wasn't out. I think he was just in desperation, just taking the bottom and pulling them to the ground. But obviously, we had money on Prochazka and here at Bucks on Nucks. So take what I say take my opinion with a grain of salt, I guess. Obviously, there's some bias there. But man, these like technically gifted strikers, obviously Alex, I think of Izzy as well, are just so good in like, I know you didn't watch the fight, DK, but like, let me walk through. Prochazka didn't fight a bad fight up until that point, right? And he hurt him a little bit, and he was doing some damage, and then he got a little bit trigger happy, and that's all Pereira needed for maybe like 2 seconds of his opponent getting trigger happy to just find a shot. So it's crazy how these guys work. You know, it's the same way Alex himself got KO'd by Izzy, right? When he lost the belt. These gifted strikers, and I feel like because anybody can go in there, and anybody can really go in there and throw hands a little bit and keep their distance and kind of just like protect themselves by using distance from a striker, and maybe they'll get a shot in or two. You know what I mean? I think of like Nurmagomedov touching Connor a couple times, right? Like nobody thought that should be able to happen, and then it happened, right? So they're all fucking fantastic fighters. So anybody like in the UFC can go and do that and try and like hold their own, right? But it's the way these technically gifted strikers take advantage of opportunities is where like gap becomes, because all fucking Pereira needed, like I said, was Prochazka just to get trigger happy and drop his guard for 2 seconds, and he found his shot. So you just eat a couple shots, it's done. Same thing when Izzy, they said he was like playing possum a little bit. He looked like he was hurt against Pereira. Pereira started getting active with the hands, and then bit him in the ass, and then he was sleeping on the canvas, right? So fighting these guys, you like if you catch them, like you gotta be super fucking defense. Strickland is the only guy I've seen that's done that, and it was a masterclass that was able to go in and fight and pressure an elite striker to that degree and he did it for 5 rounds, but still remain defensive and not get trigger happy at any really moment, because he was touching them the whole through 5 rounds, and only once did he flurry, and that was when he really caught him. And even then, like it was very well done and a high IQ play. You know, like he put his weight against him, and Izzy didn't really have the room to make like a counter strike. So as soon as you can't hesitate, if you're going to flurry these fucking elite strikers, you can't hesitate and you got to go right in. Right. So, but yeah, it's fun to watch the way these guys can make something out of nothing.
Well, and it takes 2 to tango, right? So like my thing, I always remember when you get like championship level fights, like you say, like guys stay on the outside and they're counter strikers. Like think about Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Tyron Woodley. Both those guys, great strikers. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is considered one of the best technical strikers in the UFC all time, almost like the technical wise, like, and neither of them would take a risk. So neither of them really got hit for like 3 straight fucking fights. Right. But it takes 2 to tango in terms of like where like you say, like one little mistake and Pereira can get in there. Same with when Izzy found with him, where it takes one little mistake, and if they don't do it, it turns into Woodley versus Wonderboy, or Derek Lewis versus Francis Ngannou, where like neither of them want to take a risk, so neither of them get hit. When you're at that high of a level, it does it. I think of a great guy, like you said, Sean Strickland. That's a great example. Max Holloway in his prime. where Max Holloway could stay on the outside, but he was aggressive. He wasn't really a counter striker, and he would take a hit to give 4. You know what I mean? Where he would flurry. Yeah. And like, there's just those few, like Justin Gaethje is a horrible example of like, or is a great example of like a guy who could never be a championship fighter. Like, dude, Justin Gaethje in there, like, and you have like, you know, the best of the best, like they're going to pick him apart because he's so aggressive, right? But Max Holloway, Sean Strickland, Izzy, like Pereira, like they're not just so like just on their back foot, or like Khabib in the Conor fight, like you said, like they're not so defensive that they're not willing to take that like risk, but it's that risk in those championship level fights. It takes one fucking missed punch to be sleeping on the canvas and not getting that pay-per-view bonus anymore. And that's fucking huge, like huge money, right? Huge money, huge legacy, huge, just whatever. But I brought his name up, and I kind of, as long as you're done with UFC 295 for now, I brought his name up. So I just want to understand, like, I want to know if you had watched the Francis Ngannou versus Tyson Fury at all.
I didn't watch it, and I heard it was a bit of a pay-per-view flop. Did you see the Chael Sonnen and Ariel Helwani beef?
I saw them. Yeah, I did see that. Like,
that was kind of nuts, and I think Chael like ended up being right. Like, I don't think Ngannou made very much pay-per-view fucking points on that fight because it bombed, and it was designed to bomb from the start. I heard the guy, whoever put that fight on, was willing to lose money because it was just another one of those like UFC guy goes and fights boxer and boxer wins, right? And this time it was Tyson Fury, so nobody thought Ngannou stood a chance. So now if Ngannou fights again, obviously now there'll be some eyes and it'll sell a lot better. But yeah, I didn't watch it, but like, fuck, what a fucking performance, eh?
Well, dude, like the performance is what I was going to say. I have a little take on the pay-per-view flop. Like, dude, like every fucking boxing event is a fucking pay-per-view flop. Like when you're paying, like even like Floyd versus Logan Paul, they're talking like, oh, it's this. If you paid fucking Floyd $50 million and Logan Paul $25 million, that is a flop. You lost money on that fucking event. Like same with any Jake Paul fight. Like you lose money on those events. Like that is a flop, right? Like for it to not be considered a flop is you have to make a shit ton of money as the fighters, the organization at the gate, whoever's putting it on pay-per-view, like all these are flops. But Francis Ngannou coming out as a boxer, like at a fight with Tyson Fury, like obviously Tyson Fury's kind of like, you know, he's old, like dude, he's old. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's whatever. But dude, like Francis actually looked like, I don't know, he didn't do anything different that he did at the UFC. He always just fucking fought. He just stood up and boxed, really, right? Like he wasn't a kickboxer in the UFC either. He was just a straight boxer. So it's like he looked good. Like, I don't know. Like, but then you put France. I want to see the all fucking built in a lab matchup of like Francis versus Deontay Wilder. Like the all just dude, these two just dudes built in a fucking lab, Hercules versus Hercules, to just see what the fuck happens. But like I think Francis would get mashed in that fight. Like, I don't know. Like I thought he looked great against Tyson. But Tyson is more of like a Nate Diaz, where Wilder's more of a Francis Ngannou, where like Tyson will like to like hit and bop, like, you know what I'm saying, like hit you for a bunch, they'll pepper you with punches. Well, yeah, no, but yes, same with Diaz, right? They'll pepper you with punches, but their power's not crazy. Like, where like I think if he fought a guy like Wilder or Joshua who has that fucking one punch power, like I think it's over quick.
I mean, Fury's they're heavyweights at the end of the day. They all got one punch power, but yeah, you're right. Like the KO rate for Wilder is a different story, right? But I don't know what it would be like. I don't watch boxing enough to like know. Like I know what I've seen the Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury fights, but I don't know, man. Like I don't know if I can make a prediction there.
No, but I'm not making a prediction. I just would say I would want to watch that. I would want to watch Wilder and Ngannou. Yeah, like 100%.
Yeah, next fight, I'm watching all Ngannou's next fights now, and I hope he goes back to UFC and does MMA again. And maybe it would be sick to see him against John Jones now. You know what I mean? But DK, I will give you credit though. Actually, I remember I rewatched our podcast in person in Ottawa, and you pretty much called that Ngannou fights Tyson Fury. So. Months before, so good call there. That's some podcaster shit right there. So maybe
you know what?
Maybe you can start breaking stories and stuff. You get some insider information somewhere.
preseason bet in Vegas to win the fucking cup and it comes through, saying fucking, Ngannou's going to do it. Yeah, sometimes, buddy, you throw enough fucking darts at the board, you're going to fucking hit a bullseye from time to time. Because I throw a lot of bullshit takes out here. But there is certain things where, like, I feel like I have a read on. But I think at that point, I had just watched an interview with Ngannou saying he wanted to go fight Tyson Fury too. So, like, it wasn't.
Yeah, but I didn't think it was ever going to happen just because it's like, dude, this guy left out. Like, who's going to give this, like, that's going to be a fucking shit show. It's going to be lopsided. It's going to be fucking Tyke team playing the fucking 85 Oilers. You know what I mean? So I wasn't really interested, and I didn't think anybody would be willing to like lose money on that event. So and then it ended up happening. So
we'll see. But my big thing with Ngannou is I'd rather watch him fight Joshua. And this, I don't watch any fucking boxing. So, like, I'm just saying this of just, like, little, like, highlights and shit that, you know what I mean? You see when these guys fight. I'd rather see him fight, Wilder or Joshua than Ciryl Gane, Pavlovich, Stipe, Curtis Blades, Volkov. Like, I'd rather see him fight Wilder or Joshua than any of those fucking guys. And I think Ngannou realizes that, too, is like he's going to, not only is going to make more money, but it's going to be more entertaining to fight these fucking guys, like, than anybody in the UFC heavyweight division right now. And I get it, the John Jones fight is, but like, dude, the way he went out and how petty of a motherfucker Dana White is, he ain't coming back to fucking fight John Jones and get a title. Like, Dana White is one of the most petty motherfuckers of all time. Like,
I think, I don't know. I think it might happen. I think he was asked about it. I didn't watch the interview, but it seemed like he was pretty like receptive to the idea of maybe like doing some sort of comeback or crossover of some sort.
So are you talking Dana or Francis? Are you talking Dana or Francis? Sorry.
Dana.
Oh, Dana was okay. My fault. All right. I didn't even see that.
Like, he was good. It was good. It was a good look for MMA, right? So at the end of the day, like, fucking, but yeah, fucking Francis Ngannou, just that guy. Dude, does that guy have the best genetics of all time or what?
Dude, him, Yoel Romero, like, those guys just straight chiseled out of fucking stone and just like it's like built in a lab, dude. That's what I'm saying. It's like
they don't
these
even
real
know
modern day Hercules. Like,
how old is Francis Ngannou? Nobody actually knows, eh?
He could be 52. Like, they're all fucking, like, honestly,
dude, he's
like,
37, but like, how much time? This guy looks like he's got like 15 years left in him. You know what I mean? Of fighting. So he looks like he's fucking. Yeah, he has the body composition of like a fucking Mr. Olympia that's like 26. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's 37 years old, but he's like, so, you know, like
at least like that's what it says on paper, but nobody fucking knows, right? It's like
Bismack Biyombo. You ever see like his, like, where they're like, how old's Bismack Biyombo? When he was on the Raptors, they're like, he's somewhere between 28 and 32. Like, he lost his birth certificate when he was a kid. It's like, nobody knows how old Bismack Biyombo is. Like, there's a big difference between 28 and 32, but they're like, he's somewhere between 28 and 32 years old. Like, that's Ngannou, dude. He's 37, but he's got the genetics of a 20-year-old, and you can't sit there and tell. I get the whole genetics thing, but you can't tell me that at some fucking point, Francis Ngannou was not just Brock Lesnar juiced to the fucking gills. You don't get that big being just like genetic-wise.
Being off of it, and he's been doing testing, so that's what makes no sense to me.
But he hadn't fought for like 2 years, and then, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's ways to get it. Like, Yoel
he's
Romero,
always been massive. He's always been massive, even when he was
I would like to see the picture of Francis Ngannou's dad and Francis Ngannou's mom, because like that would tell you right away of like genetics. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, if his dad's 60, 68, 70 years old and he's just an absolute juice head, then genetics all day. But yeah, I don't know. Guys fucking got jet fuel just like Brock Lesnar, just like Yoel Romero, just like all the fucking guys that are chiseled out of goddamn stone. You know, we're kind of running, like, we always want to go under an hour here, Bucks on Nucks. Like I said, we took a couple weeks off. We hope you're listening, but I hope you realize from my perspective, like, we don't do this for any other reason of Stu and I love to sit on our fucking laptops and talk shit to each other about sports. Like, we do this for the love of the game. There's no other reason as to why we do this. I didn't even know Stewie J before Bucks on Nucks, and now it's like there's no guy I'd rather talk sports with. I'm kind of gonna wrap it up with that sense. But what do you got for final remarks to anything at all on NHL? Your fucking final thoughts, personal feelings. You got a diary to fucking get out of here. What do you got for final thoughts for this episode 45 of Bucks on Nucks?
Nothing much. I I'm just going to keep myself fucking in check here. So now I have to do it because I'm saying on the pod, post this on YouTube. So you can subscribe to our channel on YouTube and maybe keep an eye out for future episodes. I found this fucking nutty AI tool that I can just fucking do it. I'm taking advantage of this shit, dude. It's either I take advantage of this fucking new technology or it takes advantage of me because I'm in one of those positions that might not last. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So follow or subscribe to the YouTube channel and heck yeah.
Follow all our socials and you know what, Stu? Good saying for you right now, adapt or motherfucking die. So you're adapting and using it to your advantage. I'm going to stick with it. I always fucking butcher this, but I'm going because our boy Ty, he just hasn't had the time to get around. Guy's fucking killing his career. We shout out Ty every episode. Shout out fucking Ty. Shout out Stewie J. And you know what? Shout out my fucking self too. Pat myself on the back, pump my own tires because you know what? If you can't be cool, be careful. And if you can't be good, be fucking good at it, baby.